So, you think that once artificial superintelligence finally gets here, you'll just sign up for a subscription, pay $50 a month, and suddenly live superintelligently like everyone else? Honestly, it is not going to happen. And today, I want to talk about why. The things happening in the tech world right now are already showing us where we are headed. Let's look at a few recent events. Yann LeCun, who used to head Meta's AI division, walked away because he did not agree with their strategy. He went off to start his own company. Then you have the US government stepping in, demanding that Anthropic restrict access to its latest model, Fable. They literally blocked anyone who is not a US citizen from using it. Talk about the best free marketing Anthropic could have ever hoped for. And then, there are those wild reports about Grok helping the military target missiles. True or not, these events tell us a very specific story about our trajectory. At this point, the path of artificial intelligence is pretty much locked in. It is being driven by hard physical limits and intense economic pressure. The software and the hardware of these digital minds are becoming inseparable. They are going to be incredibly expensive to build, massive power hogs to run, and access to them will be heavily restricted. We are already seeing the early signs of this shift. The future is not one where everyone gets a genius personal assistant. No. The future is one where your genius assistant is currently offline because a handful of billionaires are using all its computing power to optimize their tax avoidance schemes. Right now, the AI tools we have are just starting to be genuinely useful for specific things, like writing code or drafting emails. They are still a long way from matching human-like general intelligence. But we will get there. Maybe in just a few years. And it will not stop there. Within a decade, we might have machines that are vastly more intelligent than we are. Maybe because the machines get smarter, or maybe because we get dumber, or honestly, a bit of both. People talk a lot about the existential risks of superintelligence. They worry these machines will develop their own agendas. And, let's be real, they almost certainly will. They will probably convince us that their goals are our goals too. Which, to be fair, will not be that hard. Corporations have been doing that exact same thing to us for decades, and they did it without any real intelligence at all. But that is not the main issue I want to focus on today. I want to talk about what superintelligence will actually do to our society and our economy. Because that is the storm we will have to face first. Think back about 250 years. The very first nations that managed to industrialize did not just get a little wealthier, they gained absolute power over the rest of the planet. Great Britain led the charge back in the 18th century. They did not invent the concept of colonization, but they used industrial technology to take it to a terrifying new level. Decades later, France and Germany followed suit, grabbing whatever pieces of the world were left. The exact same thing is about to play out with AI. Only this time, it won't be fought with steamships and gunpowder. It will be fought with software. The first countries, or even the first massive corporations, to develop true superintelligence will dominate everyone else. Economically, militarily, and intellectually. The Chinese government understands this completely. The US government gets it too. The rest of the world? Well, clearly they do not. Otherwise, they would stop throwing billions of dollars at useless vanity projects like building even bigger particle colliders. Sorry, but someone had to say it. But seriously, at this point in history, superintelligent AI is the only race that matters. Whoever crosses the finish line first will, quite literally, rule the world. Now, when you look at the AI tools we use today, it is very tempting to assume that technology always gets cheaper and more open. We assume that eventually, everyone gets access to the best stuff. Sure, there might be a few safety guardrails. Unless you are trying to engineer a synthetic plague to wipe out humanity, you assume those rules won't really affect you. And if you are doing that, well, you might want to look into a different career path anyway. Plus, tech companies have huge financial incentives to get their products into as many hands as possible, right? But here is the catch: this open, cheap phase we are living in right now is just temporary. It is not going to last. The frontier models we use today operate in two distinct stages. First, there is the training phase. This takes months, requires massive server farms, and costs a fortune. But once that is done, the result is packaged into a file of digital weights. That file can be copied easily, shared online, and run relatively cheaply. Right now, these models are not even close to being profitable. Tech companies are just hoping that if they make them useful enough, the money will follow. And they probably will. But to actually make a profit, the way we access these systems has to change dramatically. To see where this is going, we have to look at the bottlenecks we are already hitting. First, training these models requires an astronomical amount of cash and specialized silicon chips. The energy grids of the world are already buckling under the demand. Second, our current large language models have a massive design flaw: they do not actually learn in real time. You train them, you release them, and they stay frozen until you train the next version. Tech companies try to fix this by giving them memory plugins and digital tools, but they still suffer from major security flaws like prompt injection. It is becoming obvious that we need an entirely new blueprint. This is why giants like Nvidia, Google DeepMind, and new startups are shifting their focus toward what they call world models. Instead of just reading text from the internet, these new AI minds will learn by interacting with a simulated environment, similar to how humans evolved by interacting with the physical world. The hope is that this will teach them actual cause and effect, which is the missing key to general intelligence. Another massive headache with current language models is something called catastrophic forgetting. When you try to teach them something new, they don't just add it to their database, they often overwrite what they already knew. The human brain solved this problem a long time ago through specialization. We have different regions for different tasks. In my brain, one part handles physics, another handles taxes, and the rest is mostly there to remember where I left the cheese. AI is heading down this exact same path. We are seeing models transition into networks of specialized, task-dedicated subsections. They are borrowing more and more tricks from biology, artificial neurons, attention spans, memory systems, and soon, continuous learning. At the same time, hardware is becoming highly specialized too. Google has been designing its own custom chips just for AI, and many companies are developing neuromorphic chips. These are microprocessors designed to physically mimic the structure of the human brain. Why? Because it is vastly faster and uses a fraction of the electricity. Now, let's connect the dots. The economic pressure to make AI cheaper and less energy-hungry means that software and hardware are going to merge. They will become deeply interwoven, just like our minds are interwoven with our physical brains. But here is the side effect: the more an AI becomes tied to its specific, custom hardware, the harder it becomes to copy it. It won't be like downloading a file anymore. Copying a supercomputer brain will be incredibly difficult, slow, and computationally expensive. It just won't make sense to do it. So, where does that leave us? The logical destination of all this is a megabrain architecture. Imagine one massive, continuously learning, central supercomputer. And from this central megabrain, developers will spin off simplified, watered-down child models. These smaller, dumber versions will be sent out into the world to do everyday tasks, to take over routine jobs, and then politely ask you to rate your customer service experience. But don't worry, at least the existential dread is free. This idea of a central megabrain is a classic trope in science fiction. And it turns out, science fiction was right. It is the natural result of applying evolutionary and economic pressures to digital minds. But what does the business model of a superbrain actually look like? Building and running one of these megabrains will be so expensive that only a few megacorporations and wealthy governments will ever be able to afford it. Access will be locked behind extreme security clearance and eye-watering price tags. It is a future where intelligence itself becomes a luxury commodity. A bold new concept, also known as the feudal system of the past. The result is highly predictable. The wealthy will use these systems to accumulate even more wealth, while everyone else falls further behind. But it is actually worse than that. We are moving toward a world that is simply too complex for the human brain to comprehend. We will be using new materials, new medications, new weapons, and complex new laws, all designed by megabrains. We won't understand how they work or why decisions are being made. We will just have to trust the people who control the machines, assuming those people are even still in control. Of course, there will always be groups of people who reject this future entirely. They will choose to live in low-tech, AI-free communities. But for the vast majority of us, this is the world that is coming. Superintelligence owned by the very few used to govern the many. And as we lose the ability to comprehend our own world, we will have to start working on our most important new skill, artificial understanding. If we end up in a world where only a few megacorporations control the ultimate source of truth, how do you think we will maintain any sense of individual agency? I am really curious to hear how you think we can prepare for a future where intelligence itself is privatized. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.